Hi there, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebeling, and today is July 2nd. Scent is the shortest distance between the present and the past. A peony opens, and suddenly you're somewhere else. A childhood garden, a grandmother's porch, a wedding, a summer you didn't know you were saving. Poet Catherine Regal understood that. She wrote a poem that reads like a planting plan, except every flower holds a memory. She wrote, "Peonies, heavy and pink as 80s bridesmaid dresses, and scented just the same. Sweet pea, because I like clashing smells, and the car I drove in college was named that, a pea green Datsun with a tendency to backfire. Sugar snap peas, which I might as well call memory bites for how they taste like being 14 and still mourning the horse farm I'd been uprooted from at 10. Also sage, mint, and thyme, the clocks of summer, and watermelon, and blue lobelia. Lavender for the bees, and because I hate all fake lavender smells. Tomatoes to cut and place on toasted bread for BLTs, with or without the B and the L. I'd like to plant the sweet alyssum that smells like honey and peace, and for it to bloom even when it's hot. And also lilies, so I have something left to look at when the rabbits come. They always come. They are always hungry. And I think I'm done protecting one sweet thing from another. Well, the rabbits come. They always do. And maybe that's part of becoming a gardener. You stop trying to save every blossom and simply keep planting. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1778 that the French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau died at Ermenonville, France. He was 66. By then, Rousseau was one of the best-known thinkers in Europe. He had written The Social Contract, Emile, and books that changed the way people thought about freedom, education, and nature. But by the late 1760s, many of those books had been banned. Forced into exile, Rousseau turned increasingly to botany. He wandered fields and forests, collecting plants. He pressed them, mounted them on paper with neat red borders, and made a little herbaria to give away as gifts. Between 1771 and 1774, he wrote 8 letters on botany to Madame de la Certe, who wanted to teach her young daughter, Madeleine, about plants. Rousseau had one rule: don't begin with Latin names. Instead, begin by looking. He wrote, "I have always believed that one could be a very great botanist without knowing a single plant by its name." His guiding principle was simply this: de bien voir ce qu'on voit, to see clearly what is before you. Rousseau made Madeleine a handmade herbarium filled with pressed flowers and inscribed in his own hand. After his death, his letters were published as Letters on the Elements of Botany. They became one of Europe's most beloved introductions to the subject. Even Goethe called them, quote, a model for how to teach. In the final weeks of his life, Rousseau accepted an invitation to stay at Ermenonville, a landscape garden designed around his own belief that nature is most beautiful when allowed to remain itself. He died there on this day, July 2nd, 1778, and was buried on a small island among the poplars. And it was on this day in 1893 that the Welsh garden maker Ralph Hancock was born in Cardiff, Wales. In 1934, people walking through Rockefeller Center looked up and saw something extraordinary: a pine tree was being hoisted 11 stories into the air, and the man behind it was Ralph Hancock. Ralph had grown up in Cardiff, the eldest son of an auctioneer. He first worked as an accountant in his father's business. Then came the First World War. Ralph enlisted in the Royal Field Artillery, but diabetes brought his military service to an early end. After the war, he tried insurance. The business failed. So, at nearly 30 years old, Ralph started over. This time as a gardener. In 1926, he designed a rock garden for Princess Victoria, daughter of King Edward VII. She was delighted with it and gave Ralph a diamond and sapphire tie pin. He treasured it. In fact, he carried it with him when he sailed to New York. Within a few years, the Rockefellers had become his clients. And Ralph was imagining something no one had ever attempted before: a garden in the sky. On the 11th floor of the RCA building, he created the Gardens of the Nations. 3,000 tons of soil, 20,000 bulbs, 2,000 trees and shrubs. Some of the trees were too tall for the elevators. They had to be lifted up the side of the building on ropes. Visitors wandered through English, French, Italian, Spanish, Dutch, and Japanese gardens, all high above the streets of Manhattan. More than 87,000 people came during the first 7 months. Ralph believed there was room for gardens everywhere, even on rooftops. But his original gardens didn't survive. Most disappeared during the 1970s and 80s. But Ralph's idea managed to last. Today, rooftop gardens are found all over the world. And in 2018, a new version of the Gardens of the Nations once again opened at Rockefeller Center. Not every garden begins with an empty field. Some begin by looking up. In today's Unearthed Words, we remember the Polish poet Wisława Szymborska, who was born on this day in 1923. Wisława spent most of her life in Kraków, where she became one of Poland's most beloved writers. She received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1996. In 2023, the city, Kraków, opened a park in her honor. It had once been a military square. Later, it became a parking lot. And today, it is filled with trees, including a small apple orchard with one of her poems written on a wall there. But the poem people know best is called Nothing Twice. Wisława wrote, "Nothing can ever happen twice." In consequence, the sorry fact is that we arrive here improvised and leave without the chance to practice. Later she writes, "No day copies yesterday. No 2 nights will teach what bliss is in precisely the same way." Wisława spent a lifetime finding the extraordinary in ordinary days. She died in 2012. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Gardens of Santa Fe by Anne Hillerman. As Private Gardens Week draws to a close, today we visit Santa Fe, New Mexico, 7,000 feet above sea level, where gardening isn't for the faint of heart. Anne Hillerman is a journalist, a novelist, and a longtime resident of Santa Fe. And for this book, she visited more than 50 gardens, looking for the ones that best told the story of the city. She began her book by writing a warning. Gardening in Santa Fe is not for sissies. Creating a garden here often demands the muscle to turn clay and caliche into soil, with 1,000,000 shovels full of compost. And it requires fortitude when a 20-minute hailstorm transforms a summer's worth of blossoms into confetti. Then Anne tells one of my favorite stories. She was standing beneath an old wisteria, its branches as thick as a child's arm, when one of them began to move. Out came the head of a 6-foot black-tailed rattlesnake, quietly watching her from the vine. That, Anne writes, is a Santa Fe garden. Every garden Anne visited held a story. Seeds carried home in a suitcase, a plum tree grown from a pit saved from a trip to Asia, and an apricot started from seeds brought back from India. These aren't simply gardens. They're lives, planted. Gardens of Santa Fe by Anne Hillerman is a lovely reminder that sometimes the hardest places grow the best stories. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1899 that the Singaporean horticulturist Agnes Joachim died in Singapore. She was 45 years old. Agnes grew up in a family of gardeners. Her mother, Aurelia, won prize after prize at the Singapore Flower Show. Flowers were simply part of her everyday life. Agnes grew chrysanthemums, lilies, pineapples, mangosteens, and durian. But orchids were her favorite. Around 1890, in the garden of her family home, she crossed 2 orchids, a Burmese, Vanda teres, and a Malayan, Vanda hookeriana. And from that cross came something no one had ever seen before. In 1893, Agnes brought the plant to Henry Ridley, director of the Singapore Botanic Gardens. He named it Vanda Miss Joachim in her honor. That spring, Agnes entered it in the Singapore Flower Show. She won first prize. And then, within months, she was gone. Years later, her nephew would walk through Singapore with his young daughter, and whenever they passed a flower shop displaying her orchid, he would cross 2 fingers in front of her eyes and say, "Your aunt crossed 2 plants, and this is what she made." In 1981, Singapore chose Vanda Miss Joachim as its national flower. Today, if you visit the Armenian church on Hill Street, you'll find Agnes's grave, flanked by orchids. Her headstone bears just one sentence: "Let her own works praise her." As we close the show today, remember, plant the peonies, plant the lilies, plant the sweet alyssum, plant the tomatoes for summer sandwiches. Plant them all, knowing that the rabbits may come. A storm may come. Time itself will certainly come. But gardens have never been about keeping everything. But they've always been about planting again. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.